Lowest terms, simplest form, a couple different ways of saying it, is something that it's important to recognize in fractions, especially as you go on. It's always good to be able to work with the simplest form of a fraction. All right, what do we mean by that? Well, let's take a look at a few. 3/7 is the simplest form of a fraction, as is 3/4, 2/3, 3/10, 11/14, 4/5, and 6/13. Well, I guess the question is, what are we talking about here, and why are they lowest term or simplest form fractions? Well, here's the key, and this is the key word. It means that they've been reduced, and when you reduce something as far as you can reduce it, you make it as small as it possibly can be. So we know that these fractions are the smallest form of those fractional parts that we could possibly have. Well, what does that mean? How do I know that? And how will you know that? Well, here is the key. If we take one of those fractions, 3/7, we know it's in the simplest form it can possibly be, reduced as small as it possibly can be reduced, if there are no numbers other than 1. 1's the exception. We'll talk about that in a second. But there are no numbers divisible into both the numerator and the denominator that will allow them to break down into smaller numbers still. Remember, when we divide, we break numbers down into a smaller form. 1 doesn't make any difference because 1 is a common factor and divisible into all numbers, but when you do it, the numbers stay the same. So if you could divide these numbers by 1 all day, and you're still going to have them remain 3/7. So that's how we know when we're in the simplest form of a fraction. Now here's a fraction that is not in simplest form, 16/40. And what we're going to do is reverse the path of equivalent fractions. Remember when we were talking about and working on equivalent fractions, we started with the simplest form of the fraction, and by gaining multiples in both the denominator and the numerator, we went higher and higher and higher, and also concluded that you could go on forever. Well, you can't go on forever when you're getting smaller. There'll be that final resting place, so to speak, that end of the path that will be the simplest, lowest, reduced form of the fraction. Okay, so we're looking for that. And of course the key is, can we find numbers divisible into both the numerator and the denominator? Now around the 4th grade level, before you've learned how to do some special skills that you'll probably learn in 5th grade, definitely in 6th grade, how to find the number using certain methods, it's called the least common multiple, we're going to use instead our knowledge of multiplication facts and division facts. We know that they're the same, and we know there's 36 of them. Think about 16 and 40. Think about your various multiplication tables, those 2 through 9. Are these the answers in any of the multiplication tables that you're familiar with? And if you think really hard, I'll bet you'll come up with the fact that both the 16 and the 40 are divisible by 8. Once we know that, we can go ahead and do that division, which of course will yield us smaller numbers, and if that's the biggest possible number that both of these can be divided by, we're going to go directly down to the lowest, simplest form of this fractional. Okay, 16 divided by 8 and 40 divided by 8. Okay, 16 divided by 8 is 2, 40 divided by 8 is 5, so we've skipped a lot of steps here because there'd be 8 steps to get from here to here, but by division we've gone all the way back, and so now we have an equivalent, simplest form fraction reduced to its lowest possible terms. There's nothing divisible into 2 and 5 with the exception of 1 that would break it down any further. Well, those are some very valuable skills. Practice them, get so that you have mastered them, and as time goes on, they'll really be very handy for you.